if you've got a ton of bears and a ton of foxes and you drop them at the same time, which one falls fastest?
Well, they're both weigh a ton, so they'd be the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, you thought you were going to catch me out, didn't you? I know that one. I'm not an idiot.
Released in 1981, Disney's The Fox and the Hound is a heartfelt story about friendship, loyalty, and the forces that pull us apart.
It follows Todd, a fox, and Copper, a hound, who grow up as best friends but are destined to become enemies.
A modest success at the box office, the film is remembered for its emotional depth and bittersweet themes. But how does it hold up today? Let's talk about it!
Is everybody ready?
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome back.
This week, we watched
The Fox and the Hound.
And it was traumatic.
I will say this now at the beginning. I will not be watching it ever again.
I second that.
I just don't want that in my life.
So, how did you manage to avoid this movie until this point in your life?
I just decided not to watch it.
So it was a choice. It wasn't just that you didn't happen to watch it.
Well, I think as a kid, I probably just didn't happen to watch it because I was very princess heavy and 90s heavy. And I think that by the time I got older, I knew that it was sad. And I was like, yeah, nah.
Yeah, I can't remember what point in my life I learned this film was very sad. But I think there was something about just the whole dynamic of what I knew of the plot that didn't really interest me when I was younger.
And then everybody tells you it's sad. And then it's like, well, I don't want to watch that then.
Yeah, but not only did they tell you that it's sad, they tell you the sad bit. And then you're like, okay, well, I don't need to see this. I don't want to see that. Thanks very much. But for the purpose of the Watch Along pod, we had to put ourselves through that.
We had to watch it. And I could have lived my life without seeing it. And I'm not saying it's a bad film, but what I'm saying is I don't need that negativity in my life. I just don't need it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Like, the first 2 minutes, I'm sad. The mum's been shot. I mean, I know a lot of Disney films open with parents that are killed and things, but it just feels so much more graphic when you're actually seeing them be killed rather than, you know, in like Frozen where you assume they've died in the boat shipwreck, whereas you actually like hear the shot and it's too much.
I think that there is such a jump in quality between the last film, which was 1977, and this one.
Yeah, they do look very, very different in style.
Yeah, in the last few films, especially since they brought the Xeroxing method in, everything just looked really sort of rough, sketchy. There were lines that hadn't been tidied up and erased, and it all kind of looked a bit messy. But this one is like really clean. It looks really nice.
It is beautiful animation. You have to give them that. Yeah, it's very well animated, and I think it goes back to a little bit more of that early Disney feel of really loving those characters and things like that. Whereas I feel like the last few films have been missing that a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. They did really well with the characters in this, I think. I felt the relationships between every character.
Yeah.
There were a lot of interesting dynamics going on between the different characters. I particularly liked the relationship between Copper, the dog, and Chief, the older dog. And there was kind of that the older generation being overtaken by the younger generation. They have to literally take the back seat eventually while the younger, fitter ones lead the way. And I thought that was really good to see in a kids' film. You don't usually see that.
I think it's also, I think the whole film really is about relationships. It's about all the different types of relationships you have in your life. and the change that they can go through and things like that. I mean, obviously, the film is based around the main relationship of the Fox and the Hound, Copper and Todd. What a name.
I had no idea of the characters' names in this.
No.
But I like, because we get the credits at the start of the movie still at this point, when it said the names, Copper and Todd, I had assumed Copper would have been the Fox name because of the colour.
Yeah.
But weird. And the reason he's called Todd
is because he's a toddler.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, besides the name, it's an interesting friendship dynamic, isn't it? Because I really love Todd. I think his innocence almost through the whole of the film, of that he is that pure person that is like, well, why does it have to be like that? Why can't we just all be friends? Why does that have to happen? And he's like, well, my friends wouldn't turn against me because they know me. And he is that innocence of a child that even when he grows up, he still has that innocence of, you know, but they're my friend. There's, you know, what's wrong with that? And it hurt to watch his heart get broken over and over and over again. And I ended up hating Copper. I really did. I thought, what a douche. Like, he's friends with Todd. He goes away and he's sort of the epitome of someone who lives with their eyes closed. They get told, this is what you do, this is the way, this is how we have to live. And even though they know it's wrong, because he knows that Todd's a nice fox, he knows that they're friends, he's still like, but that's what I've got to do. And it's just sad. I just hate it.
Yeah, it was, as you say, it was heartbreak over and over again. It just wasn't easy to watch.
No, it wasn't.
I would love to know whose brilliant idea it was to make this as an animated Disney film. Well, we know it was Walt's. He bought the rights to it, but
I don't know. I mean, there's some beautiful moments in it, but it is I just think it's too painful. And maybe when you're a kid, it's not as painful to watch. But as an adult, it ripped my heart out.
Yeah, I mean, everyone I've ever spoken to who saw this as a child would disagree with that statement.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
But yeah.
I just didn't know if some of the themes would hit as hard when you're a child. Obviously, they would understand, they're not friends anymore and things like that. But I think as an adult, there's an even deeper meaning of those friendships. And you've probably been through stuff yourself when you're watching it and think, yeah, I've had a friend like that, or I've had that happen to me, or, you know.
Yeah, we've got that life experience now that we're older.
Yep.
There will be an
education, not elimination. That's what it is. Education, not elimination.
Wise words from Big Mama there.
Big Mama. Another good character. Yeah. I think Big Mama was a good character in terms of she was that almost grandparent watching over, not really telling you like, oh, that's right, that's wrong, but giving some advice here and there and, you know, trying to guide you in the right way, but still letting you do your thing, you know. And I think, you know, then we had the woodpecker and the little bird.
Yes, can't remember their names, but you can't mention them without mentioning Squeak.
Squeak,
the caterpillar.
Who's the caterpillar for the longest time that anybody's ever been a caterpillar.
Yes, everybody else gets old, but he still remains a caterpillar.
A caterpillar. Like, he's been a caterpillar for more than a year because it's a spring and then we're going to another spring. And I'm like, pretty sure that doesn't happen.
No, definite plot hole.
Plot hole. I did like when he turned into a butterfly, though.
Yeah, it was cute.
It was funny. And it was the fact that they were like, I recognise those eyes.
I just loved the whole slapstick sort of chase scenes
Yeah.
that they had. There was one bit where he hides up inside a glass part of a electric pole, and yeah, they all get shocked.
Yeah.
But then as he's crawling away, he's like glowing.
Yeah, that was like a little bit of light relief in the film, but it did not take away from the devastation that Copper's a dickhead.
Yeah.
Honestly, I really hated how it was almost like he went away to camp and was brainwashed.
Yeah, well, they were away hunting for a long time.
Yeah, did you see how much skins they came back with? I was like, what are you going to do with all of that?
Yeah, you would have thought that he would have gone to sell them. He'd skinned and prepared them. Yeah. So,
and then, I mean, as you said earlier, Chief and Copper's relationship was interesting because they were friendly, but there was also a boundary there where Chief was like, no, I'm top dog.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously when Chief got injured,
and he played on that, he milked that for everything he could.
Can we just talk about that scene where he chases Todd?
Yeah,
for the first time.
You mean when he gets hit by a train?
Yeah, I was like, yes!
I was not like, yes. He was a bad character, but I was in disbelief. I couldn't believe that we saw in a Disney film a dog get hit by a train and knocked, 50 feet down onto the rocks. I thought he was dead.
I was happy if he was dead. Todd was not doing anything wrong. He was just coming over to say hello. He only went in the chicken hut because Chief was chasing him. He wasn't going to eat the chickens.
No. Chief didn't know that.
Chief did.
Chief did.
The
hunter didn't know that, did he?
The hunter didn't know that, but the hunter's an idiot.
Mm.
And yeah, that made me sad when he's like running, and then I was like, when I don't know what her name was, the old lady who took Todd in, Todd's mummy, when she stood up for him and was like shot at his vehicle and everything, I was like, yeah!
Feisty one.
Yeah. I was like, and it broke my heart when she like first found him and she was like, oh, finally I'll have a friend to be.
No, don't. Now, I know you didn't want to talk about it.
No, I'm not talking about it.
But we cannot talk about The Fox and the Hound without talking about the abandonment scene.
She doesn't abandon him. She lets him go for his own safety.
She could have kept him safe. She could have kept him indoors. She was the one who kept letting him out.
That would have been unfair to a fox. Come on. He's a wild animal.
Right, so she took an animal that she had domesticated from a puppy, from a little baby, up into adolescence. He knew nothing different from bottle feeds, a nice warm shelter.
We don't know that because she let him out all the time, so he was going off in the woods.
He was out having an adventure, but he was going home. He wouldn't have survived.
Look, she was devastated. Can we not blame her? She was absolutely heartbroken. I sobbed so much, I had to go and find my cat and cuddle him and tell him I would never leave him. I was literally like, I love you, crying into him.
I'm sure he was very reassured and grateful. Yeah. So that whole scene while she's driving and
the song,
she starts it off as like a bit of a soliloquy, a little bit of a monologue, doesn't she? And it's just like every word was punching me in the gut.
I know.
I cried.
It was so devastating, and it just made me hate Copper and the hunter even more, because I was like, this woman needs that fox, and she loves him so bloody much that she's putting him in a reserve so he won't get hunted and the hunter can't find him.
When she was like, you needed me, and then I realised that I needed you too. And I was like, no, stop.
It was too much. It was too much. And his face when she was leaving and he realised he couldn't go, oh, I can't even talk about it. It's too sad. It is too sad.
We'll move on. Bad Disney. Don't do that. It
was the saddest moment. And then when we flip to the hunter going, oh, he's left her in the game. He's left that fox in the game reserve. I'm going to go and get him. I'm like, you're not allowed to hunt in there. There's no hunting. Fuming.
Horrible.
But I did like the big mama went to find him to make sure he was okay and to teach him how to live in the forest and everything. She made sure that he wasn't gonna.
Yeah. I felt like Big Mama was a little bit like, I want to help, but I don't want to be directly involved.
Yeah. So it's a bit like, you two should mate, but let's not, make it obvious.
Oh.
Look at that sexy fox over there.
Vixie, the vixen.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did make her...
She was a sexy fox.
She was a sexy fox.
She reminded me of Duchess, but as a fox.
Mm-hmm.
She was very similar style, wasn't she?
Yeah.
But again, I thought that was nice. I didn't know about her as a character, actually. I didn't know that last bit happened. I knew about him being left and all of that sad bit, but I didn't know about the rest of it. And
so at first, I was having trouble seeing the point of having that character. She didn't really add anything to the plot, I found.
Really?
Yeah, not really.
Oh, I loved it. Oh, I felt like it was him finding a home in the forest.
So that's the conclusion I came to, but it took me all the way until the end of the film, where you see the two of them sat there together, overlooking what's going on down on the farm.
I think the thing is when he's never met another fox other than his mother, who's dead. And I think it's the fact that he's like, oh, someone like me. And he's getting to know her, and they have a whole song, another Twitter painting song. Literally, I thought you could have just put the Twitter painting scene in that. It would be exactly the same.
Yep,
from Bambi.
An owl to sing it. Oh,
done.
Tick.
Done. And I thought, like, okay, he's starting to find. That scene was like, oh, he's finding his feet in the forest. He's finding his place in the grand scheme of things. And then the next morning, they both come out of the same burrow.
Oh.
I was like, whoa, are we going to have pups at the end of this? But I think he was an important character in terms of his development as a character. Because I think if he hadn't met her and then the next part happened, he would have nothing to lose by saving Copper later on. Whereas, again, he made the right choice, because even though he could lose this person that he's fallen in love with, he still chooses to save Copper because that's the right thing to do. Because he is an idealist, and he's like, meant to be the epitome of goodness. Copper's a dick.
So a bit later in the film, we get another confrontation. The rescue scheme that you just mentioned.
With the bear.
Well,
obviously they go into the reserve to hunt.
Yeah.
Todd, and it's so mean. Like when he's putting out those traps,
when he's demonstrating it with the stick, I was like, no way.
I'm like, how is Copper okay with that, knowing his friend's going to be in it? Like, Copper's a dick.
Horrible.
And yeah, that I thought that was quite confronting for a child to see that. Like, but yeah, and then when they're laying them all out and putting the leaves on them, and then Todd starts walking down that, and I'm like, don't walk any further. Stop it. Stop it.
And then they all start snapping off around him as
Yeah.
he tries to escape.
It's very stressful.
But, well, when the bear came out, I felt that they upped the ante of peril in this film.
That bear was terrifying.
Yeah. Beastly. It was a monster.
Yeah.
It was huge. And
it was very like gnashy, like I was scared.
I just felt like all of the films we've had up until now, there has been mild peril, but I never really felt like the main characters were in huge danger. I always felt that they will see a way out of it. But this was the first time I felt like...
Do you think that's because we'd not seen this film?
Possibly, maybe.
And I couldn't have told you. Either of them could have actually died at the end, and I wouldn't have known if they would have lived or died.
That's what I thought. Because I knew this was a sad film,
Yeah.
I was thinking one of these guys is going to die.
And I think that's probably what upped the ante for us, is that because we didn't know it. Whereas most of the rest of the stuff, we've seen it as kids, so we know that's not going to happen. So it sort of takes a little bit of the away. But I do get what you mean, because when the bear like flings Copper off and he hits against the rock, I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
And then when Todd's like running and he's like, do I go back? Do I not? Do I not? Then he does. And they fall off the waterfall together.
Yeah, which is something that I couldn't get my head around. The big bear dies from that fall, but the little fox is absolutely fine. Well, he's a little bit beat up, but he's...
Yeah, but if the bear landed on a load of rocks and Todd was small enough to miss the rocks...
Or landed on the bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
I don't know if foxes are like cats and they land on they can turn their body to land on their feet. I don't think bears can.
I don't know. I've never tested that theory.
We'll drop a bear from a building and see what happens.
Bear and a fox.
Yeah. And then I did feel like Copper redeemed himself a small incy-wincy bit when he stepped in front to save Todd's life. But I'm like, by that point, I'm like, damn right you're saving his life. You know, he's done 10 times more for you than you've ever done in your bloody life.
Does the redemption mean nothing? He saw the error of his ways.
Did he, though? I still reckon he's hunting.
Yeah, just not his best mate.
The redemption wasn't enough for me.
You're such an unforgiving...
No, it's not that. It's not that. It's that it wasn't like... The redemption wasn't that he saw the error of his ways and decided to go and live in the forest with them, with a life of freedom. He went back with the hunter and continued hunting and skinning animals. And that's what I don't like.
Yeah, it was more of a, he saved us, so let's spare him.
Yeah. And that's what annoyed me, because I was like... By that point, Todd had already done so much to... help Copper and be friends with Copper, and he'd not done anything wrong. And it took him nearly dying for Copper to go, look, we'll spare your life. I just really took anger against Copper in this film. I don't know why. Maybe that's something psychologically in me. I don't know.
No, I think it's valid. Very valid.
But
he was a dick.
He was a dick. At least the ending wasn't too sad.
No, it was all right. Everyone carried on living. One thing I did think was a bit sad is that they didn't rekindle their friendship.
Well, that's what I mean. That the redemption wasn't enough.
Yeah, it was... He spared him, and they both continued living their lives on their separate paths.
Yeah, I would have liked it if, Copper could have brought home... Not Copper. Todd could have brought home Vixie, and they could have had a little hut outside, and everybody could have lived happily ever after all together. They could have been friends, and they could have had little pups, but no. They had to stay in the reserve because the hunter still would have killed him. Which is a sad truth of life. But...
So, we liked the bit when they were babies, and we didn't like the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Which is something Disney probably was aware of, because the direct-to-video sequel takes place when they are kids. So
it's all about them being friends, okay.
Yeah, the hijinks they got into when they were still friends. I think they focused on the right part of the film. It's just a shame it was probably trash because it was direct-to-video.
Yeah. I think the thing is that it doesn't matter how much they develop that friendship, you know what's happening. So... I think it would have been nicer if the direct-to-video would have been a follow-on, and it would have been Todd and Vixie's child, and Copper has a puppy, and
with Chief.
No, why would it be with Chief? You weirdo. And they became friends with each other.
And then history repeats itself.
No, because they've learned from their mistakes. But at first, there is this... Todd is scared for his little baby to be friends with their puppy because he's like, no, they're going to turn on you. They're not nice people. And in the end, it's about re-healing that friendship and everybody coming together. Much better sequel, Disney.
Yeah. I think to make that even more interesting, I think the parents should be against them being friends. No, you can't be friends with them.
That's what I was just saying.
That's not what you said.
That's exactly what I just said.
That's not what I heard.
What did you hear?
Wait, let me just say everything that you said and pretend it was my idea. Sorry. Did I glaze over?
I can't believe that you... Literally, I just said... Like, and Todd would be scared for his child to be friends with the puppy because, you know, he'd be scared that, you know, history was going to repeat itself. So he was against it and they were not friends and they were arguing.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, Nick. Sorry.
Wow. I might as well not talk.
That'd be great. This would be very short episode.
Okay, episode over.
Podcast over by the sounds of things.
Do you want to say anything else about the film, or shall we look at rankings?
Yeah, I've got still got things to say.
Okay, well then say them.
Couldn't get a word in, could I?
This podcast will be over soon. Nick, what would you like to say about this film?
A lot of big names attached to this film.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time we've had voice actors that I recognise the names of. Mickey Rooney, Kurt Russell, Corey Feldman, before all the weird cringe stuff. But there was a lot of other big names attached to this also. You're not saying anything.
No, I'm not. Nick says I'm talking too much, so let Nick talk.
Talk more.
No.
Let me just turn the dial.
No, please tell me what names were attached.
So this was the last film that any of Disney's 9 old men worked on.
You think of the 7 dwarfs when you say the 9 old men.
Well, it will be the last time I mention them, so no more dwarfs for us. But it was Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston worked on the start of this film, but then retired midway in, and it was completely
because they were too devastated.
Yeah, it was too much. They dealt with a nice bit. They dealt with the little...
And then they started to draw the next bit, and they went, no!
No way. But they handed over to a new generation of animators, including some that took me by surprise, who have gone on to much bigger and better things. Such as Tim Burton.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Brad Bird.
Don't know who that is.
He is behind The Iron Giant and
okay.
The Incredibles.
Right, yep.
John Lasseter.
What does he do?
A whole bunch of Pixar stuff. Toy Story, Cars,
Oh, yeah, excellent.
Bug's Life.
Yeah.
And
he really went in a different direction.
Yeah, Chris Buck was the other one.
And he does
Frozen and Wish. So yeah,
he had a big break then.
yeah, he went away for a while, but it must have been doing other things. So I think.
Have you said everything else that you wanted to say, or have I talked too much? Okay, hi there, folks. So Daisy's messed up. We don't have a card for today. I don't know what happened. I made all of these when we started the podcast, and I meticulously went over all of them. There is not one for today, and there's not one for next week either. So clearly, these two films I just didn't want to watch.
How silly. How silly and fun.
So we're using a placeholder for today, Mulan. This is just one I had spare. So yeah, Mulan will be today's placeholder, but I shall get some for next week.
There's either a really big compliment or insult. Because you're either saying she's a fox or she's a hound.
I'll let you decide. Right, hold Mulan. Last week, we put The Rescuers at one of our lowest places. We put it at 80. How are you feeling about Fox and the Hound compared to this board?
So, this is probably a little bit controversial because even though I thought this was a horrible film, as a movie, I think it had a lot to offer. It was definitely suspenseful. I felt emotions.
But I would rather watch Sword in the Stone than this.
So, is this list what we think is the better film or what we think we enjoy more?
I don't know. We didn't make that distinction at the beginning.
No, we need to make a call now.
Well, I think it's a mix of both, isn't it? Because I think, like we said, we put Dumbo Lover because we would not want to watch it again.
But I remember us also discussing how the significance of it as a movie helped it in the rankings as well.
Yeah, and but I don't think this movie's that as significant as that. Like, I'm not saying it should be on this board, but I don't think it should be too much higher.
So I think the real comparison needs to be with last week's film, The Rescuers.
Oh, it's much better than The Rescuers as a whole. Definitely.
Is it better than Pooh?
Yes, yeah.
Is it as good as The Sword in the Stone?
I would, if somebody said, what would you rather watch, The Sword in the Stone or The Fox and the Hound, I'm going to go for The Sword in the Stone.
All right.
Because I just think overall it's a nicer movie.
So I'm happy to put this between Sword in the Stone and Winnie the Pooh. But we need to decide if Pooh's going down.
Hey! Pooh's going down. Pooh can go down.
Pooh has been flushed.
The Pooh has been flushed.
Down to 77. And this, definitely the Fox and the Hound card, is going on 76.
And don't get me wrong, I do think it's beautifully animated. I just think it's too sad for Disney. I don't think there's not like a nice happy ending. If they had a nice happy ending, like say Lady and the Tramp and whatnot, probably would be a lot higher. But it just didn't feel like it was a nice happy ending. It was an okay ending.
I think there was more at stake in this. As we said, the danger was a much higher sort of level than we've ever had before, which leaves less opportunity for a happy ending.
Yeah, but it still could have had a happy end. They could have made it happen. And I think that's what I love about Disney movies, is that they do all tend to end on a happy ending. And, you know, it's that, and they lived happily ever after. Whether that's true or not, I don't care. I want that at the end of a Disney movie because I want to walk away going, life's so wonderful.
Yeah, I think that's why people are drawn to Disney, because you have that sort of fluffy, everything is okay escapism without everything being too depressing. And of course you've got
a little bit of cotton wool everywhere.
Yeah, you've got the sad things that happen, but that only elevates the happy stuff when it happens.
I say this, and Pocahontas doesn't really have that like magical happy ending.
What happens? Does she die of smallpox? Or...
Yeah, no, she actually died in Gravesend.
I know she did.
No, I can't tell you. You've not watched it. It's not sad. It's not a sad ending.
It's just not a happy ending.
It's just not what you think the ending's going to be for a princess movie.
Okay, say no more.
So, but I still think it's perfect.
Your favourite?
He's my favourite. But anyway, what's next week?
Next week is The Black Cauldron.
I'm really, really not looking forward to this. I've never had any interest in watching this film. It doesn't even look like a Disney film. Like, I look at the artwork for it and I just don't think it even looks like a Disney film.
No, I agree. It doesn't look like a Disney film. But I am looking forward to seeing this purely from curiosity, because I don't know anything about it. I don't know what the plot is. I don't know if it's supposed to be sad or...
No, I don't know anything. I'm going in blind as well. But I'm going in with I don't really want to watch this. But that's it for this week.
We'll be back next week
with Black Cauldron.
But until then,
remember you're never too old to be young.
Is everybody ready?